So then welcome to this session on Power BI Dataflows. Why should you care? First of all, thank you so much for having me. This is really fun. So before we begin, just a quick introduction. My name is Marthe. I'm from Norway. In Norway, I am organizing Data Saturday Oslo. So if anyone wants to come to Oslo to have more talks on data or learn more on data, please come. And I'm also organizing the Microsoft Data Platform User Group in Norway. I'm working at Soplasteria, and I love everything data. So Power BI and data governance are my main topics and my favorite topics. But I'm also working on master data management, Azure in general, and Databricks. And when I'm not doing things that about data, I like to be outdoors, and I am doing trad climbing. In Norway, there's this list of the highest peaks above 2,000 meters. So I'm trying to collect those. So if any of you do trad climbing, please come to Norway and then we can climb together. All right, but let's go back to the more interesting stuff. Power BI data flows, why should you care? Okay, so let's have a let's ease into this a bit. So Power BI, that's one thing, and then data flows, that's another thing that you might have heard of before in different components. For instance, you have data flows in ADF, and well, other places as well. So if you Google data flows, you will see that you get this definition that in computing, data flow is a broad concept which has various meanings depending on the application and context. Cool, that's not helpful at all, or not telling us anything. So I tried coming up with the definition. So we can say that data flow is a configuration of combining, transforming, loading, and sending data. Okay, cool. That might help a bit. Let's see if we can understand it even better throughout this session. And in Power BI, you have these two components. I'm sure we all know this, but you have desktop and Power BI service. And the data flows you actually create in the Power BI service component. So we will be working mostly with that today. Yes, okay. So then again, Power BI data flows, why should you care? Let's see if we can set a bit of background on this topic. Why I think data flows are so cool and something to look into if you're interested. Okay, so there might be a couple of heartbreaks or self-service BI challenges out there. So let's have a look at the most common ones, or some of the most common ones. One challenge that you might have when you're working with Power BI is that you don't want to provide access to the data source for your report developers. For various reasons, there might be a reason that, okay, I don't want to give direct access because of security, that type of things. But you still want people to be able to take advantage of the data and explore and find insights. Another challenge could be the business logic and definitions. So a really cool thing with Power BI is that anyone can do it. Anyone could really start playing around with data and also publish reports. The challenge then is that if you are transforming the data, adding in business logic, if you have two different reports or two different report developers, chances are quite high that they will do this in quite a different way. So if you have one transformation going on there, one transformation going on in the other report, you will end up with two different numbers, even though both reports might state that they are talking about gross sales or something like that. So you get some issues with the trust of the data, even though both numbers could be correct depending on the definitions, and also even though the data warehouse or data lake is perfect. So it's nothing wrong with the data. It's just something happening in Power BI. There might also be some gaps in the data preparation process. So this might not be standardized. People are doing it in different ways. And again, also that will probably cause some differences in the resulting numbers that you're looking at. And another thing could be the need for reusability. So a lot of great reports are out there, but every time you're building a report, you're doing everything each time. You're not reusing the great stuff that someone has created. And then the last point that I want to mention could be some sort of technical barrier. So for some reason, it could be that if you are business analyst, or maybe you're not like a data engineer, you don't have that knowledge on data modeling and you don't really need that knowledge, it could be sometimes maybe a bit difficult to get to take full advantage of the data. So that also could be a challenge. So throughout this session, we'll see how Power BI Dataflows can help you with some of these challenges. And the best way to do that is just to demo. So we'll go straight into Power BI Service and have a look. Hopefully the demo gods are with me. Okay, so this is Power BI Service. I'm sure we all know what this looks like. And when you want to create a data flow, you need to create it inside a workspace. So I have created a little workspace for us right here, which is empty right now, but we are going to create a data flow. So if I click here on you see all the different things that you can create within a workspace. And we want to create a data flow. So I'll click on this one. And then you get a couple of options. So you could create a data flow from scratch through defining new tables. You could link tables from other data flows. So if someone has already created a data flow, you can pull that in and then continue to build on top of that. You could import a model if you have that, or you could attach a common data model folder if you work with that. But today we're going to create one from scratch. So I'm going to choose add new tables and click on that one. And then we get this view on all the different sources that we could connect to. So this looks quite similar to the view you would have in Power BI Desktop. You have a bunch of different sources that you could connect to. And since this is a demo, we're of course gonna connect to Excel. Hopefully everything will work out perfectly. So I have a nice data set for us. And this one, sales data. I click connect. And everything looks okay with authentication. And I click next. So depending on the source you're connecting to, you will have different types of authentication. You might need to log into a database, that type of thing. Now we see this preview right here. So Power BI is asking us, okay, what do you want to pull in from that data source? So I want to get all of these 5 tables, and if you click on them, you will get a preview. And then I think, okay, cool, that looks like what I want, and I'll click transform data. And then, whoa, some of you might have seen this before if you're working with Power BI Desktop. So this is Power Query online. So it is the same, it got the same view, it got the same features that you would have in Power BI Desktop. It's just that we are now online. So here you see that you could pull in more data if you want to with the get data features. You have these transformations that you could do, more transformations here. You could add columns, and it's got the same view that you have in Power BI Desktop. On the left side here, you see the different tables, queries that we have just imported or connected to. And on the right side here, you see the applied steps on the queries. And in here, this dataset got a lot of errors. So let's just try and fix some of them. So for instance, here on the market table, we have some duplicates. So let's just, we want to remove duplicates right here. So I'll click on that one. And then we see, amazing. Now the duplicates are removed, and we added an applied step here and removed duplicates. And you could do all of these easy cleanups that are nice to do if you have a data set that other people will take advantage of, or that for some reason you see our table got some issues. That would be nice to clean up using data flows. But it could also be that you want to do something more complicated. So let's say that we want to, okay, what could be complicated? Maybe we could see if we can calculate how many sales we have for the different products, and then expand on our existing products table so that we also have an aggregated column on number of sales. So let's do that. So let's see if we can, let's duplicate this table like that. And then we want to do a group by. So what we want to do is that we want to group by product ID inside the sales table, and we want to count the number of rows, and click OK. And now Power Query is generating this for us. So we see that this BMO Mountain product got 735 sales. Okay, cool. And let's see if we want to, now we want to extend this product table. So let's try and do a merge. And I think we can do that here. Yes, merge queries. Let's just merge as new to show. We want to add on sales table. No, not sales table, the new one, sales table 2, that was the one we just created. And let's merge these on product ID. And then click OK. And let's see. Yes, so now we got the product table. So this is the same that we had. We have the sales table here, and let's expand some of these values. So we want the count. We do not want to use original column name as prefix. So I'll just expand on count. Click OK. And then we see, ooh, amazing. So now we've added on some extra additional information in our product ID on our product table. And let's say we can call this sales count to make it better or more understandable. And let's also rename this to product. Let's see. Of course, you should come up with a great name and not do what I do on this. And yeah, we could, and of course you can continue on adding on new transformations, clean up the data more, renames, well, anything you would like to do. So let's just say that we're happy with this. This was exactly what we wanted. So then I'll click save and close. And now Power BI is going to wrap this up for us so that we get a data flow. And it will also ask you what do you want to call this. And let's call it, yeah, I need to be more creative. Demo 2. And of course, you should write a really, really good description here that makes a lot of sense. But right now, let's just keep this open. And I click save. So what we've done now is that we have created a Power BI data flow. Cool. When you save it, you will see that, oh, this was a success. And then it will ask you, it went away now, but it will ask you, do you want to refresh it now or schedule a refresh? And the reason why this pops up is because the only thing we've done now is to connect to the data, and then we set up the transformations and the queries that we want to run on the data. We have not pulled any data into the actual data flow. So if we did connect to this data flow now, it would just be an empty shell. So what we want to do is that we want to refresh it. So I'll just want to show you how this looks like in our workspace. So now you see that we have this symbol here, data flow, sales data, demo number 2. And you could schedule a refresh. And this would be done in the same way that you could do with a shared data set. And just because this is a demo, let's just refresh now. So I click on this, and yeah, this is a quite simple, small table, so it will go hopefully quite fast to refresh this. So that was the refreshing options, but there is also one more refresh option that is really nice to know about with data flows. So if I go back in here, you see that you got a table name for all the different tables that we added. So you also see that sales table 2, that should probably not be there. It exists here. Now you can do something kind of cool. So let's say that the sales table, that's a large table. It's so big. It's a fact table. It's kind of heavy to load every day or every night. So you want to set up an incremental refresh. So that's an option you have with Power BI Dataflows. So if I click on this one, you see that you have an option here. So I can then choose, okay, what daytime do I want to filter by? Let's say sales date. And then you can also decide if you want to store rows from the past. So let's say that you want to store or maybe you can choose time period. So it could be day, month, quarter, or year. So let's say that you want to store 1 year back in time and refresh the rows from the last 3 months or 3 days or whatever. And then you can click save, and then you will have that incremental refresh set up for you. So you don't have to load the entire thing every night. That is kind of amazing. All right. Okay, so this is how this looks like in Power BI Service. Now let's see what it looks like if someone wants to connect to this, because this is, of course, why we're creating the data flows, is that we want someone to connect to it and reuse it. So here I just open up a clean Power BI desktop file, so it's empty. We want to connect to a data flow. So, and the data flow that we just created. So if I click Get Data here, and I go to Data Flows, it will show me the different options that I have. Yes, okay. And now we see that we have 2 options. You have environments and you have workspaces. And the reason for this is that if you have created any data flows in Power Apps, you will go into environments. But now we have created this in Power BI Service, so we want to go to workspaces. And then it will show me all the workspaces that contain data flows that I have access to. And we want to connect to the data flow that we just created in our workspace, sales data demo 2. So if I open up this one, it will also show me the different tables that I could connect to. So let's say I want to connect to customer, market table, and then the product fancy table and sales table. And as the same way that you have with the normal previews, you can also get that here. So it will show you a preview of the table that you're looking at. So if I click transform data now, Power BI Desktop is going to open up Power Query again, but now inside Power BI Desktop. So let me just get this up so you can see it. All right. So this is, we are in Power Query Editor, but in the Power BI Desktop view. And if we go to our products fancy, I don't know if you remember, but we did a lot of stuff here. You see that the only applied steps you see is the source. And the source is actually the workspace. So the source is the Power Platform with your workspaces. And then we're navigating to the correct table. My computer is making some sounds. I'll just try and... Okay, let me know if you hear anything. It might be only on my side. Yeah, okay, good. I'll take that as a good sign. Yes, so here, yeah, you only see these 2 applied steps. So all the steps that we applied in Power BI Service is no longer visible here. So that means that when you are pulling in the data flow in Power BI Desktop, we're starting from the point where we left off in Power BI Service. So now I could do more stuff here. Well, what should I do? I don't know. Customer name. I could rename this, for instance. So let's do that. I'll call it customer name, and then we will have a new step applied here in my local data set that I'm now creating in Power BI Desktop. So all the difficult stuff that someone might have done, that's already been done in Power BI Service. I don't need to care about that. I can get a cleaner or better version that I can take advantage of in Power BI Desktop. Now, if I close and apply this, it will appear as it would for any other data source, and load this into our desktop. So you will see it appearing here on the right side as fields, hopefully in not too long. But yeah, we can give it a couple of seconds, I guess, just to prove that this actually works. Yes, all right, cool. So here we have it, and yeah, now you can look at the data as you would with any other data source. Oh yeah, no, it wasn't empty. I thought it was empty. Cool, we got data. Nice, exactly what we wanted. And now you could do as you would with any other solution, and you can also pull in other data sources if you want to, and build visuals and set up relationships and so on. Yes, okay. So let's see, did I remember to show you everything I wanted? Yes, I think I did. Let's head back to our presentation then and see. Okay, so that was our demo. But what did we learn? What did we just see? Well, we saw that Power BI Dataflows, that is essentially Power Query Online. And that is an ETL tool that you have inside Power BI Service Online. We also saw that you could pull in some data source, and it could be multiple data sources. It doesn't have to be only one. You can build your data flows. And then the cool thing is that you can then build multiple Power BI reports on top of that data flow. So multiple reports could take advantage of the transformations and the edits that you have in your data flow. And it's important that you remember to refresh the dataset the first time, and also set a refresh schedule as you would with any other dataset. And if you want access to this data flow, you need to provide access through the workspace. Yes. Okay. So what did we look at? Well, we saw these were the challenges that we just discussed, and how does data flow help us out with these ones? So on the access side, this is kind of cool because now you do not need access to the data source itself. You only need to provide access to Power BI service. So if you want someone to be able to access the data, but maybe with some adjustments that you could do in Power BI when you're building the Power BI data flow, they only need access to Power BI service. You're skipping that part where they need maybe access to directly to a database, for instance. Also on the business logic and definitions, this helps you because if you are doing some transformations that might be a bit heavy or difficult, or you're setting up some sort of business logic inside of data flow, you can do that one place, and then everyone could then reuse that data flow for their reports. So you have that one source of truth for business logic and definitions. Then on the gaps in the preparation process, well, this of course standardized your ETL process so that now you have this tool and you can do that one time, and then everyone can take advantage of that, which brings me to the reusability. So of course now you can reduce the time spent on data preparation, and also you're reducing the risk that you might do something wrong and that there might be some errors or bugs, and you can just reuse something that someone has built out that someone also probably, hopefully, has tested for you. And then on the technical difficulty, maybe if the users that want to explore the data, that want to see if they can gain some sort of insight from that data, they don't need to know transformations. They don't need to understand fact tables and all of these things that you can build. So this really enables that self-service BI and makes that step a bit easier as well, if they just connect directly to something that's already been cleaned and already been transformed for them. That's kind of nice. Yeah. So Power BI Dataflows, well, they provide a level of control, reusability, and standardization, and enable that self-service BI for you. So this is a feature that I think more could take advantage of. All right. Then I want to also dig into one more feature that I think is especially cool with Dataflows, because they have some machine learning and AI features that you can take advantage of. So in Power BI Dataflows, they are connected to Azure Cognitive Services and Azure ML integration. So that means that we could use this without really being any machine learning experts or anything like that. And of course, the best way to show you this would be through a demo. So we're going to head back to Power BI service. Okay, so I'm going to use a couple of different data sets to demo this for you, but let's go into my demo workspace here. So I want to show you this New Year's resolution data set. So I've already pulled this in, so I've set up the connection and pulled that data in for us. And then we can start from this place. So this is tweets that were made sometime around 2014 with some tweet text, and you have some categories, and you have some more data going on here. What we want to know is that we want to know if this tweet was positive or negative. And of course, this very much applies to the use case of having a customer survey or getting some sort of customer feedback. This could really help you out to see, okay, based on the text that customer provided, is it happy or is it not with the services? But right now, let's check this out with a tweet text. So I'll just mark this one and then I click on this one up here, AI Insights. So here you see that we can invoke Azure Machine Learning models and cognitive services for text analysis and image detection. Cool. So I'll click here and then it's gonna do some thinking. And this morning it wasn't that fast. So, but now it was amazing. All the gods are with me today. Here you see that you have Power BI machine learning models. So if you have created a model, you could connect to that. I will show you how we can do that next. But now we want to connect to cognitive services. So I'll choose scores sentiments because that's what we want to have a look at. And now you can choose, okay, do you want to pull in some free text or do you want to base this on a column value in your table? We want to do that. And we want it to be based on tweet text. And you could also put in the ISO code of the language, but if you don't, then Power BI service is gonna, or cognitive services is gonna try and detect the language for you. So I'm not gonna do that, but you could have if you wanted to. And then I'll click apply. And now Power BI might need a second, but what it's doing is that it's connecting towards that cognitive services layer that exists. And it's going to run through those tweets for us and then give us a score between 0 and 1, where 0 is that you're really not happy about this. The sentiment is really low. And 1 is that, well, this is the best tweet ever. It's so positive. It's so happy. Okay, and let's see if it worked. If we go all the way to the right here. Amazing. Now we see we have cognitive services score sentiment. And we could, of course, rename this. Let's just call it score sentiment. And here we see that we added a function with cognitive services, and now we renamed our column. And one disclaimer, these tweets are not always that nice. You know, I should have probably cleaned these tweets up a bit. So I'm sorry if we read something that is not good. But let's see if we agree with these cognitive services. So let's have a look at this one. This is super negative, 0.001, number 17. Wait. Let's see what that text was. Hopefully it's not too uncool. Okay, so bucket list, eat at Chipotle, never had it. Number 1 problem, New Year's resolution is to go vegetarian. Okay, Naratis never had that either. Okay, cool. That didn't make too much sense for me, but maybe the number 1 problem is really negative. Let's see if we find another one that we could maybe agree with a bit more. But we wanted one that is kind of negative. This one. This one from Hawaii. Let's have a look. Oh, okay. So don't expect me to change it just New Year's. I'm just going to be myself. Okay, cool. So no changes. Well, Power BI, I think that's kind of negative. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at the positive ones. So if we go with this one, for instance, that's almost 1. Here we have, okay, yeah, to make more people smile. Okay, so probably that's what makes Power BI think that this is really positive. And based on the things that we're seeing here, as you can see, it might not always be correct. There might be some, I don't know, sarcasm or something that it might not pick up on. But overall, it performs quite well. Yeah, so keep that in mind, but it could also really help you out. Okay, I'm gonna go away from this page because I know that it's not that safe to look at. So I'm just gonna cancel this and go out. But that was how you could take advantage of cognitive services with Dataflows. Now there is one more cool thing that we could do, or there's more cool things, but one thing that I want to show you is the machine learning models that you can build with Power BI Dataflows. So if I go back to the workspace, I have some data that I've prepared for us. This one, yeah, wine quality for red wine. Okay, so again, I pulled this data in for us already, so it's ready for us to play around with. But let's just have a look at it and see what this data is. So we have a lot of columns over here with some chemical values. I'm not a chemistry person. I don't know what all of this means, but okay. So we have some sulfur dioxide. Okay, cool, and other components. And then on the far right here, you see quality. What it is, it's a list of red wines with these chemical values, and then it's also telling you the quality of the wine. So is it a good quality or is it a low quality? And what we want to do is that we want to use this data set to be able to predict or to know something about the quality of the red wine based on these chemical values, which is of course really valuable to use in your life moving forward. So this is something we're excited to learn more about. So if I go here, this is the data flow that's already created. I can click on this brain here, apply machine learning model. So we haven't created one, so then it asks us to add a machine learning model. We want to do that. So I'll click on it. And now it asks us, okay, what do you want to predict? And we want to predict the quality. So I'll choose that if I can find it. There, quality. That's what we want to predict the value of. So I'll do that and I'll click next. And now Power BI, the machine learning features that it's connected to, it's going to help me to choose a model for us. So that's the cool thing. I don't need to know anything about this. I could just trust the system. Of course, if you know something about this, you might get better answers because you could, use your knowledge on top of this. That's never a good idea. That's never not a good idea. But let's just pretend I don't know anything about machine learning. So I'm going to trust Power BI on this. And it's saying that you should use a regression model. So I say, fine, cool, I'll go with regression. If I didn't agree, I could select a different model. But let's just go with this one and I'll click next. And then it's going to ask me, okay, so you're going to have quality as an output. What data points do you want to use to predict that output? Do you want all of them to be part of that? And I say yes. Let's see. We want to have all of these chemical values as a part of predicting the quality of the red wine. So we'll have all of these. And then I'll click next. And now you could put up the name for the model. You should write a really good description, of course. And then Power BI is going to set up a training time for you. So now that you could adjust, you could choose between 5 minutes and 360 minutes, and it's selecting 120 minutes for us as a default. And what Power BI is going to do now is it's going to take 80% of the data that you put in and use that for training. And then it's going to test that model on the remaining 20% of that data. So of course, if you have more data, like we haven't put that much data in here, so that will of course also affect the result. But that's what's going to happen in the background here. And then I could pull in this and I could click save and train, but we don't have 120 minutes. So I'm not going to do that now. I've already run this for us. So let's have a look at the results. Then I'm just going back to our workspace with all the different demo stuff I have here. And this one should be the one with the train model. Okay, so here, this is the same table that we just looked at, but for this data flow, I have created a model and I've trained it. So then we have one data set for training data. So that was the 80% that Power BI is creating for us. And then it has created a testing data set for us as well with those 20%. Nice. And what we could do now is that we could have a look at the resulting, like the findings. So if I click on machine learning model here, you see that we have this model that I call data quality prediction. And now we can view the training report. So if I click on that, and this is also always a bit interesting because sometimes this just takes forever to open. But what this is that it is a Power BI Power BI has automatically generated a report or training report for us. So if we go in here, it's going to tell us as much as possible on the results. So here you can have a look at the model performance. You can see the result of the prediction regression model, and yeah, dig into some of that data. Now let's have a look at the top predictors. So we want to see what components matter the most for the output of the quality of the red wine. And I'm not sure if this was a surprise, but wow, okay, so alcohol is really influential on whether or not this is a high or low quality. Interesting. So maybe we had an idea that this was true, but now, you know, Power BI is actually proving this for us. Really nice to keep in mind for, you know, living life and the weekend that's coming. So if I click here, it tells us that if you have more than 13%, probably, it's really high quality, and the less you have, the lower the quality. Oh, interesting, cool. Also, let's say that I don't know what this means, but volatile seems really bad. So let's click on that and see what's the result for that. Okay, so here we actually see that if you have little of this acidity that I can't even pronounce, but if you have little of that, you have higher quality, and the more you have, the lower the quality of the wine will be. I guess that also makes sense, just because it sounds really bad to have that. Cool. So just by running this machine learning model in Power BI, it's giving us some interesting information, and you could also, of course, dig into more of this data. And again, the cool thing here is that you just needed to do some clicks. You didn't really need to know anything, and you can still learn these amazing facts about alcohol in red wine. I mean, what a life lesson. Okay, cool. So that was the machine learning model that I wanted to show you guys. And let's head back to this slide. Okay, so what was this? Well, something that we need to keep in mind is that machine learning and AI, some of the features with Dataflows are premium features. Not all of them, but some of them. And some of them are the machine learning features. And this also only works for online data sources. So that's also something to keep in mind. Okay, so now we've gone through a lot of stuff. There are more things you could do with Dataflows that I haven't been able to show you now, but hopefully I've triggered some motivation to dig into Dataflows more. But based on what we've seen today, so when should you use Dataflows? Is this something you should always use? You should just go for it, or are there some best practices or tips that we could look at? Well, okay, so let's see. So one thing that Dataflows makes a lot of sense for is dimension tables and single tables. So if you have tables that are reused a lot in the organization, probably dimension tables. So you have some product table or a customer table, that type of tables that you know is going to be reused a lot. It's good to use Dataflows, because then you don't have to have all of these different data sets that are pulling in these tables from your source, your database, or whatever. You could just pull it in one time from the database, have it in Power BI service, and then everyone could reuse that instead. And obviously, as we've seen, it's kind of cool for machine learning. So if you want to get some easy insights, especially, I guess, the use case if you have some sort of service that you're sending out to customers and you want to know or be able to score the customer on, okay, how happy are you actually with the service? You could use that sentiment analysis. And also, if you have really large data sets, so you might have these really heavy things that are stopping your Power BI every time you try and load it every night, or it just takes hours and hours to load. Instead, you could take advantage of that incremental refresh, and you could have that refreshed independently. So that also is a really nice feature to take advantage of. Yes. So okay, what should you take away? That Dataflows are awesome? No, or they are. But what could we? Well, I want to give you 3 takeaways. So Dataflows could help you to centralize and standardize your ETL process, and remove those barriers and just make it easier to have control on your Power BI solution. It's also really nice to enable that self-service BI because, again, you could do all these difficult things in your data flows, and then the less technical users could have a great starting point to build reports and dig into that data. And then it's also a really cool way to easy enable AI or machine learning. Again, you don't need to know anything, or well, again, it's good to know, but you don't need to know, and you can take advantage of that quite easily.